welcome to the Arcade Buffet. Today what we're going to talk about, this is a tech series on how to adjust the 7475 specifically, Wells Gardner chassis. This should also apply to the U2000 and U5000 with one exception. The big exception between the two is the subcontrast pot. The 74 and the 75 both have a subcontrast pot, where the U5000 and the U2000 do not. There's the big difference between these chassis and the other Wells Gardner chassis and a lot of other chassis out there is your adjustment overall is, the concept is roughly the same. The big difference between these series and other series, is the reason why we're doing this, is the adjustment of the neck board and how to set your contrast and stuff like that. So basically what we're going to do is I have one running here on a bench. The tube's a little dark, a little dim. It's probably on its way out, but for our purposes it's going to show the example of what we're trying to do. But on these neck boards, unlike others, you, instead of setting these to their mechanical centers, you turn them all the way down. It's the way the neck board is designed, and in my opinion not the greatest way of design, because you have not as much flexibility potentially as you do with some other chassis. But they work good and they look good once they're adjusted, so that's kind of what we're going to do. But I wanted to show you what we're going to do. I also have the Pincushion board on the one that is running. I'll try to show you an example of what this does. This is the reason why you need this for a 27-inch. The chassis have some other differences between the 25-27, so they're not like compatible. If you were to just stick this board on, you have to change a couple other things. But for the most part, I'll show you what this does later in the video, along with how to adjust this. So basically we're going to screw it all up, and I'm going to show you kind of what it does, and then we'll try and set it the best we possibly can. The other tools you're going to need are basically some non-conductive adjustment tools. Well, I've got these right here. I actually make these into different lengths. This is the shortest. I think this is the next longest, and I think the next one is like yay so long. But I can make them in any length that you want. If you'd like to order some, just hit me up with my email, and we can go from there. But anyway, you want to get some non-conductive tools so that way you can adjust the pots, because with your subcontrast pot you have to reach down into the chassis. Not that there's anything right here that will really jump out and get you, but your horizontal output transistor right here carries anywhere between 300 and 800 volts at any given time, so you want to make sure you don't touch that. That's why having a adjustment tool to go down to turn your pot is the way to go. So, and then on the neck board, same concept. Nothing really is going to jump out at you, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get your fingers. I got big old fat fingers, so it's hard for me to adjust these. And what I'll do is I'll take the same thing, take the adjustment tool in there and turn them. I can't turn them right here very well because it'll just fall over, but as you can see, adjustment tools are the way to go. So let me get set up, and we'll proceed to screw this thing up best we can and unscrew it up and see where it goes. Alright, well, now we got the camera set up here on the box. I don't have a tripod right now, so got you setting up on a medium flat rate box best we can here. Alright, so let's take our test pattern generator and put it on a screen. Oh, I guess we'll start with that one, I reckon. It's one of the easiest screens to see. So what we're going to do is, before you start, what you want to do is basically take your remote board and you set your contrast to its mechanical center and your brightness, same thing, to its mechanical center. You can see on these chassis, if you don't have them adjusted quite right, the brightness doesn't do a whole lot, and that's part of the design. It kind of sucks, actually. So once you get it set, you really shouldn't have to adjust your brightness at all unless you have like a light gun game of some vintage where you need to increase or decrease the brightness for it to register. But if you pretty much set your contrast and your sub brightness and your flyback and stuff all like that, you really shouldn't have too much trouble with that, depending on the age of the tube, of course. Alright, so what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you what you do when you turn up the screen pot on the flyback. See how it makes it real bright, and you can turn it all the way down, it gets dark. So basically what you want to do is you want to turn all your controls on your neck board all the way to their bare minimum. Turn them basically not off, but all the way down. See, if you turn it up, see how it bleeds real bad. So we want to turn them all the way down and do the same thing if you do the green, and then same thing for the blue. You can see. Alright, so you want to turn them all the way down and set your center, your contrast, and your brightness on your remote board. You want to set those, and then you want to adjust your screen voltage on your flyback. You want to adjust it to where if you're looking at the black area, you can see the raster or the dots, hopefully you can, and you want to turn it all the way down till they just disappear, so you get basically pure black. Alright, now the next step is kind of a tricky step. Your sub contrast, see how you can turn it up and down and it lightens and darkens the screen. You want to turn that back. See how it is smearing here a little bit? You want to turn that back till it just stops smearing. Now here's where the tricky part comes in. All tubes are different, etc. So you're going to have to play with how you want yours to look, because it's also going to change once you change the contrast on the remote board. So it's kind of a balancing act from here out. See, if you turn the blue up, just like in other videos, and you turn it down till you get just black. Same thing with the green. We'll turn it up. See, you got your green. You want to turn it down just till it goes black. Same thing with your red. We'll turn it up and turn it down. See how it's smearing. Basically on the red, we're going to turn it down till, if you notice, it stops smearing. So you turn it back up, smears. Turn it back down till it just does smear. Now here's where the tricky part is. Now you've basically set everything to where it is pure black. Now if you notice when I turn this contrast up, you see how they smear? That's what they're supposed to do. They're also supposed to smear evenly, which is exactly what you want. Now we'll play with the sub-contrast pot a little bit, and we'll turn it up. See how they smear? Now if you want it all the way up max, that's fine. Now you're going to need to dial your colors back. We'll start with the red. Now I've turned it all the way back. There's not much of a change. Turned it all the way back. Green. Turn it all the way back. And blue, we'll turn it all the way back. So now you have a bit of contrast adjustment, and it looks pretty good. So now what we'll do is we'll turn the contrast all the way down, and we'll turn the sub-contrast, let's see, we'll turn it to its mechanical center, and we'll see where it goes. So you notice it's real dark and you can't hardly see nothing. So let's adjust the brightness on the screen pot on the flyback and see what we get. See how when you turn it up just a little bit, you start to get the white raster? So we'll turn it back down to where we just get black. Alright, now we're not going to touch our contrast pot. It's all the way, I think it's all the way down. Yeah, all the way down. So now we're going to turn up our colors. See how the colors, they don't pop. It just washes out the screen. So we'll turn that back turn it back down to just where I see it go black. Turn it up, green up, turn it back down to where I just see it go black. Turn the blue up, down to where I just see it go black. Now, when we adjust our contrast up, see how we have a little bit of a smear, but that's contrast at max. And your brightness, see how it doesn't do much, still doesn't do a whole lot. We'll set it back to it. So basically, what you want to do is center your contrast, and then basically, for the most part, turn your subcontrast about all the way up and back. Now this chassis has been capped and everything like that, so it's been fully refurbished. Turn your your subcontrast all the way up, and you back it off just that little bit to where it stops to smear. And then you want to do the same thing with your guns. Turn the red to where it just stops, see up smear, turn it back down. Green, turn it up. Basically green is all the way down at this point. And your blue, turn up your blue, it'll start to smear, and turn your blue back down. So as you can see, it's quite difficult to color and white balance a 74, 75, U5 and U2000. That's kind of the way that I do it. So now that way, when I have contrast, I can turn it up in the game and see how it smears. But adjusting it in game, you can adjust the contrast up if you need to. And then if you have any adjustment on your neck board, you can turn it down a little bit and go from there. But like I say, it's very hard to adjust the contrast and brightness and sub-brightness and stuff on these chassis types. You pretty much set it and forget it and go from there. And it also depends on the quality of your tube. If your tube has low emissions and low color guns, it's just not going to work very well, and you're probably going to need to rejuve your tube to try to bring it back to its best look. Alright, now we'll do a little bit here on the Pincushion board. Let's get to this screen here. As you can see over here, how the lines are pretty much straight back and forth. So what we're going to do is get my shorter adjustment tool here. It's a little easier. So I'm going to adjust one of the pots closer to the vertical IC, and you can see how it changes the squareness in different ways for the screen. So that's what you want to adjust on your 27-inch. It's a little more predominant on a 27. I'm running this on a 25-inch tube at the present moment, just because it's easier to get on and off the bench. But now you can see your trapezoid control. The other one's your Pincushion. This is your trapezoid. You see how it makes it to where you have a curve. So the 27s are a little bit longer. The curve of the bell of the tube's a little bit. So you compensate that by turning it and making it. Now we'll go back to the Pincushion. Maybe if I can get it in there. And you see how it doesn't do a whole lot. It does a little bit more on the 27, but not much. So that's kind of how you adjust that for the 27-inch versions. It doesn't have really any effect on the contrast or the brightness. It just has it just affects the linearity or trapezoid in the Pincushion of your image. So that's the basic way to do it. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them at the bottom of this video, or shoot me an email at thearcadebuffet@gmail.com, or visit my site, thearcadebuffet.com. Thanks, and see you soon.